Well, wow, thank you. So, hello everyone, welcome, and thank you for coming tonight. It's brilliant, actually, isn't it? It's an actual book launch in person. Fantastic, and what a beautiful shop. So, thank you, Stanfords. This is just a great place to have this launch. And the fact we're here is all thanks to you, Maggie, your wonderful, timely novel, Acts of Love and War. So I'm Selina Walker, I'm publisher at Penguin Random House, and I'm Maggie's very proud editor. So what can I tell you about Acts of Love and War? Well, it's about a young woman, Lucy, who is friends with and attracted to two very different brothers, Tom and Jamie, both of whom leave for Spain in 1937. Tom signs up to fight alongside the Republicans, and Jamie, who is a journalist, supports General Franco. So Lucy decides she needs to go to Spain to bring both brothers home. Big thing is, which brother is she going to fall in love with? And the worry is she going to survive at all? So page-turning stuff. But Lucy almost immediately ends up working with the Quakers, who in 1947 were awarded the Nobel Prize for their relief work with refugees during the Civil War. And the Quakers did amazing work. I mean, I didn't know anything about this until I read Maggie's book. They were responsible for saving the lives of thousands of people, women and children in particular. So I'm sure Maggie's going to talk about this in greater detail, so I'm not going to steal her thunder. But suffice it to say that this brilliant book is based on diaries and written testaments of the period and features a large number of real people, all of whom she acknowledges in her fascinating afterword, and which contributes to making this book the powerful read it so manifestly is. So many people here tonight, I think, have read and loved this novel. Jill Paul calls it vivid and immersive. Be prepared to lose your heart in the simmering heat of war-torn Spain. Judith Elnett says it's moving and that's a good quote. So Judith Elnett says it's a moving and unputdownable story of bravery and endurance. And Anne Morgan is another really great quote, an accomplished, expansive portrait of a conflict fought on the battlefield of the human heart. So there are many, many more. Those are just a few of my top quotes. So I also have a message to Maggie from Professor Farah, Professor Mendelssohn, who sent me the following. She says, I realised only this month that June the 9th will be 25 years, almost to the day, that I finished my PhD thesis on Quaker relief work in Spain. Unlike so many of my friends, I was never bored with my thesis because the people I was writing about were just so vivid. Their letters, minutes, records were full of their caring and passion. I have always wanted more people to know about them. I could not be more grateful that Maggie has taken their mission and infused it with life. Lucy feels so real to me, a delightful representative of the people who served in Spain. So congratulations on producing a wonderful novel. I hope it travels far, and Maggie, it already has. I'm just going to go on to say Spanish Civil War in particular is, I would say, a largely forgotten war. It's not on many schools' syllabuses, and I would say that quite a few younger people may not even have heard of it. Yet it was a particularly vicious war in which a country was torn apart, people lost their homes and livelihoods, and whole areas were pulverized by indiscriminate bombing. And if this sounds familiar to us all today, well, it's a credit to you, Maggie, for bringing this war so vividly to life through the eyes of your wonderful characters and for allowing us to see so many parallels to the world around us today. So thank you for writing this truly remarkable novel, which I heartily recommend to everyone. Funnily enough, books are on sale. Maggie will be signing and happy to sign them. I would urge you all to buy multiple copies. So finally, Maggie, I think this is my glass. Here's to you. Here's to your wonderful novel. Thank you. And here's to Acts of Love and War and all who say it.
Thank you, Selina. Amazing. I think thinking about what is this evening, and thinking about the fact that it's a celebration in so many ways. That it's a celebration of a new book, but it's also the only celebration in real life that I will have of my previous book. Because everything was shut when that came out, as Selina well remembers. It's also a celebration of people being able to gather together again, and isn't that amazing, wonderful? Yeah. And finally, I think it's a celebration of the possibility of lifelong dreams coming true. So anybody who thinks that may not happen for them, just keep going. You'll get there in the end. So what I thought I'd do is 3 things. First of all, just say a little bit about how the book came about. Then say some thank yous, that kind of Oscar moment. And that's what I've got the list of here. And then read 2 very short extracts, if you can all stand up long enough for that. So first of all, how the book came about. In January 2020, when there was a sort of vague rumour of a funny virus, if you remember, in China, but nothing else, I went for lunch with my ex-colleague and friend, Professor Farah Mendelssohn. And we were in the middle of Brexit then as well, if you remember. And I said to Farah that I was really interested in writing about divided nations. Now she is a bit of an expert on the English Civil Wars, so excusing the real experts on English Civil Wars, I sort of said to her, you know, have you got a good story for me then, Farah? And she said, well, not about the English Civil Wars, but I'm going to send you my thesis. And then I think you might find you've got something to write about. And that was the thesis that she mentions, which was about the amazing work that the Quakers did, saving the lives of hundreds of thousands of children during the Spanish Civil War. And as soon as I'd read that, I knew instantly that this was what I had to try and write. But goodness knows, I didn't really want to write another war story, another miserable story. But I thought, well, I'll do some research and see how it goes. So I went to the friend's house and spent a few days in the library there looking through things, and took home some books with me. And shortly after that, we were told that we were locking down and we were not going anywhere for quite a long time. So I began to read all these books, and the more I read, particularly memoirs of 2 extraordinary women of that type who are just unafraid and set off. Okay, someone needs some help in Spain. I'll get in my little Austin 50 or whatever, and I'll drive there and I'll see what I can do. Those sorts of people. One of them, a history teacher, one of them, a sculptor. You know, so no training, and off they went. And there they found the small band, actually 2 people, 2 Quakers, who had gone out to Barcelona and set up a canteen for women and children arriving on trains from Madrid, which was under bombardment. So that was where we were. And of course, when Farah first gave me this idea, I thought, oh, it could be like The Prisoner's Wife, and I could drag Tim off to Spain and he would drive me all around Spain, and I could take photographs and imbibe the atmosphere and all of that. No, never went to Spain. It wasn't really possible throughout the whole of the writing of the book. So I had to use the memoirs that I had. I had to use a wonderful travel writer called H.V. Morton, whose books are probably somewhere in this fabulous shop. And I got online and got in touch with the curators of the Barcelona Museum and a museum up in the Pyrenees, and they were just amazing. I started to talk online to this guy from the Barcelona Museum, and he said, okay, I don't know whether that building's still there. And then an hour later, he emailed me and said, Well, I've just been up there at lunchtime. So it was a real kind of team effort, it felt like. And so I apologise for any geographical errors that there may be on account of me not having been and done the research firsthand. So that's how the book came about. I think at the time Selina had just said no to 2 or 3 ideas that I'd come up with. She said, we're not good enough for the tricky second novel. This is why you'll have to buy a copy. And then when I came to Selina and Millie, my agent, wherever she is, and they both said, yes, we love it. We love this idea, you've got to go with it. So I was off to the races, and that's how I spent lockdown, all of the lockdowns, in Spain, writing a love story, which is also a war story. So that's how it all came about. And what I'd like to do now is go through my list of thank yous. And I keep seeing other people and thinking, oh my goodness, they're not on my list. So excuse me. Excuse me, those who are not here. First of all, thanks to Stanfords for hosting this lovely event, which I will always remember and cherish. Thank you to all of you for coming and being here from different parts of the country, different parts of my life. Russell was filming in Leeds this afternoon and got on an early train. People have come up from Kent, people have come up from Sussex. Kent. People from all parts of my life. I'd like to say a special thank you to Farah, who can't be here today, but I'm going to have a champagne breakfast with tomorrow. To Millie Hoskins, my agent, without whom none of this would have happened. None of the dreams. She's the dream maker. Thank you, Millie. To Selina Walker, one of the best editors in the country, if not in the world, who I am so lucky to have as my editor. She was Helen Dunmore's editor. If you can imagine, I have Helen Dunmore's editor. So she is completely wonderful. We are a little alike, so sometimes there is a bit of determination on both sides. And when we had reached an impasse over the first cover, I sent her an email saying, am I your most difficult author or only in the top 10? She replied, I'm not going to answer that. Which certainly means near the top, doesn't it? But as a result, we have this utterly wonderful cover that we both really love, don't we? Sophie Whitehead, her ex-assistant editor, can't be here, but helped enormously in shaping the book. I'd like to thank some other people from Penguin Random House. My proof editor, thank God for proof editors. How could I have made all those silly errors? Sarah Jane Forder, the managing editor, Rose Wadilov, Emma Gray Gelder, who designed the cover, marketing and publicity, Marie-Louise Patton, and Rasheen O'Shea. ML, I should have found out how you pronounce your second name, shouldn't I? I'm so sorry. Rights and Sales, who have sold the book, sold The Prisoner's Wife, obviously, all around the world, and this so far into North America, Spain, well, Spanish translations into Mexico and Czech Republic. Amelia, wherever Amelia is, thank you very much indeed to you and your team.
Thank you.
Fellow writers who've been so generous in writing endorsements for the book, and particularly here tonight is Anne Morgan, Miranda Mallins, and Nikki Marmory. So thanks to all of you, big thank you to all of you. The friends who are here range from, well, 2 who were just trying to decide whether they'd known me longest at sort of 3-ish and 4-ish, 3-ish and 4-ish. School friends, there's Karen somewhere here, there you are, the school friends, yeah, hello Karen, there you are. colleagues from Middlesex University, and reps of my lovely, lovely students who helped me learn how to write. So Russell and Eileen, thank you so much for being here, and Tasneem. Tasneem, whose novel I have. How could I do that? Finding Mr. Perfectly Fine. Is that right? Finding Mr. Perfectly Fine is coming out in July 7th. So look out for that. I'm very, very proud of you. And then family. My mum and dad, who put books in my hand. Hooray for mums and dads who do that. Amy and Katie, thank you darlings for being here and for everything that you do. And Tim, who has been so long suffering. The whole process, as we would have lunch in lockdown, and I would say, I think I'm just going off back to Spain for an hour or two and take myself back upstairs. So many thanks to all of you for being such a wonderful support and really on my side. So can I thank you? Thank you. And this isn't going to go on too long, by the way. I thought I would read two little bits. I should have talked to you about this.
Go ahead.
Yikes.
They need to talk to me.
Okay, so first of all I'm going to read the prologue, which takes us back to 1921, although the book is actually set 1936-37 it begins. So I'm going to take you back to Hertfordshire, England, 1921. Lucy was sitting in her favourite place, halfway up the mahogany staircase, with a doll laid across her lap. From here she could see all the comings and goings of the house. She watched as her father opened the front door and light flooded into the panelled hall, fixing that morning in her memory forever, as if that was the day someone wound the clockwork and her life began. Her father ushered Mrs. Murray inside and took her to the drawing room. Behind her came two boys, silhouetted in the doorway against the bright day beyond, a bigger boy holding tight to the hand of his little brother. Jamie and Tom stood still for a moment on the threshold of Lucy's life, and then moved cautiously forward into the unknown hall. As they walked towards her, their dark outlines blushed into colour and rounded into flesh. Lucy thought one of them looked a little older than her and one a bit younger. They were perhaps 7 and 4. The bigger boy, Jamie, wore a school uniform with blazer, tie and short trousers. The small boy who gripped his hand was dressed in a sailor suit. As light fell onto their faces from the landing window behind her, Lucy saw Jamie's lips were clenched hard between his teeth in the effort not to show his feelings, while Tom gazed all about in a mixture of fear and curiosity. They were as unalike as two brothers ever could be. Lucy knew that these were the boys who were coming to live in the little cottage next door, the boys with the dead father. She turned over the thought in her mind like a shiny new penny, and imprinted on its reverse side, she found the fact of her own dead mother. She watched as the boys became accustomed to the relative darkness of the wide hallway and caught sight of her on the stairs above them. When their gaze met hers, something seemed to catch in her throat and an unfamiliar shiver ran through her. She set aside her doll and stood up. Later, they told her that rays of sun from the landing window illuminated the blonde curls which encircled her head. But all she would remember was the way they stopped and stared as though she was a vision, as though she could become the fixed point in the turmoil of their lives, as though she would save them. And as you've heard from Selina, That is what she sets out to do, to save them from themselves, from their passion for the different sides of this war. But what about her? What is she going to do apart from save the two boys from next door, who are both, by the way, in love with her, and she thinks she is equally in love with both of them. Every evening, Lucy lifted yesterday's copy of the Times out of the waste bin beside the fireplace where her father had left it. As their dinner was cooking, she rolled and twisted some pages of the newspaper into firelighters. Once she'd made a little heap, she laid them carefully in the freshly swept grate, with the wooden kindling and a few lumps of coal on top. When she had touched a match to the paper and the flames were catching, she would hold the unused double pages across the chimney opening to draw the fire. As she did so, she would idly read the articles in front of her. On the 19th of November, 1936, she knelt in front of the fireplace with her arms outstretched, listening for the crackle of fire behind the paper and watching that it didn't catch light, when her attention was drawn to a letter from the Society of Friends, the Quakers, about Spain. The sufferings of children, she read, as she rocked back on her heels. Havoc, bombings from the air. She whipped the hot sheets of newsprint back towards her. The one nearest the fire was scorched, and she dropped it onto the hearth as she folded the letters page small enough to handle and carried it to the light from the window. She read, "Untold miseries are being inflicted on the child population of this unhappy country, not only by wounds and death, but also in shattered nerves and ruined health." It said that Quaker Relief was working with Save the Children and the Red Cross to evacuate children from the worst war zones. Thousands more needed to be evacuated in what it called the impartial rescue of children. It gave an address and requested donations for the cause. Her throat dry with excitement, Lucy forced herself to read the letter again, more slowly. Surely it wasn't an accident that she had stumbled on these words, which seemed aimed at her alone. Only a week before, Mrs. Murray had shown her pictures in the Daily Worker of Spanish children killed by General Franco's bombs, and now those terrible images fused with this letter in the Times. The fire in the hearth might have failed to catch, but another had been lit in her mind, and it burned with a bright flame, the impartial rescue of children.
Yes, congratulations. Get one. Give me my one now. Right.